In the past, economists spoke of capital as the producers of manufacturing, human-made goods, and separated these from land and labor. But we now recognize that capital includes natural resources that have value to us, including trees, soil, water, living organisms, etc., and also includes services that support life, including flood and erosion protection provided by forests. Natural capital is defined by the textbook as refers to the source or supply of resources and services that are derived from nature, and natural income is the annual yield from such sources of natural capital. For example, timber, ores, fish, and plants.
Natural capital can be classified into three groups: renewable, non-renewable, and replenishable. Renewable resources are living resources that can replace or restock themselves, meaning they can grow. Timber, for example, can be harvested, and more trees can be harvested in the future, as long as the environment is managed in a sustainable fashion. Usually, renewable natural capital has solar radiation via photosynthesis as its primary source of energy. Solar radiation itself can be viewed as a renewable resource as it's produced over a long timescale. Non-renewable resources are resources that exist in finite amounts on Earth and are not renewed or replaced after they have been used or depleted. A good example of this can be minerals or fossil fuels, since as the source is used, natural capital or stocks are depleted, so new sources of stock or alternatives need to be found. Replenishable resources are pretty much the middle ground between renewable and non-renewable resources. These are replaceable, and they tend to be replaced over a period of time that does not allow them to be viewed as renewable. A good example of this is groundwater. Groundwater can be used as a resource and depleted as it is used. Normally, depletion rates are magnitudes larger than recharge rates, so the natural capital is depleted in the same way as natural oil and gas are depleted. Wells run dry. However, the wells will recharge over time with new groundwater, whereas natural gas or oil wells will not. Thus, these reserves replenish. The difference between replenishable and renewable is in the rate of resource use against resource replacement. And as a side note, soil is a replenishable natural capital.
Recyclable resources, the fourth element. Iron ore is a non-renewable source. Once it has been taken from its original location and has been processed, in this case through mining, it can no longer be replaced. Even though this takes place, the element iron ore has the ability to produce iron. Iron can be shaped into different objects depending for what is needed in society. For example, iron is used for bridges, train tracks, trucks, cars, etc. Specifically in a car, some parts of the vehicle that is made out of iron can be used for other purposes or could be used as a source of replacement. Due to this, one can see that iron ore is in fact a non-renewable source, but the iron, the element that can be extracted, is considered a renewable source since it can be used again for the same or different purpose.
Sustainability means living within the means of nature. Yet, this word can have many different meanings for many people. For example, an economist would not define it as an environmentalist would. Any activity or society that supports itself from depleting natural resources is unsustainable. Such unsustainable societies are taking up large portions of the world's limited resources. Currently, the demand for natural goods is increasing, as the overall consumption and per capita consumption of the Earth's resources has increased with time. You may wonder why is nothing done about this, if we know it is harming the environment. The main reason why the use of limited resources increases is because of inertia. Once something is already functioning, it is very hard to stop it. Such issue is labeled as the tragedy of the commons. This happens when individuals overuse resources in order to satisfy their own interests, but by doing so will deplete those resources on the long run. As a result, on the long run, no one will be able to use such resources. The tragedy of the commons can be shown with this example. Okay, so imagine you're a single parent, living in a forest full of deer, and due to the latest economic recession, you were recently fired from your last job and cannot afford to feed your children. In this case, you will probably ignore the fact that the species of deer living close to your house are endangered and will hunt them down because of necessity. This example shows how people tend to prioritize their personal needs without considering the effect that they may cause on the long run. Overall, more governments are now taking action regarding this subject, as multinational organizations are conducting research about this certain issue. If no action is taken, we will definitely face a tragic future due to the increase of unsustainable activities.
Dynamic nature of a resource. Resources, a word we think we understand. But do we really? Yes, a resource may mean McDonald's, water storages, genetical medicine, and any other element which contributes in our everyday living. This is why resources are always innovating and changing over time, meeting our desires and needs and respective to the situation in which we are living in. Humans, who believe that new discoveries will provide new solutions to old problems, are called technocentric, and they believe in the truth and reality. How do they believe in such? Well, in the last 10 years, hydrogen fuel cells have replaced hydrocarbon based fuel as a food source, showing new sustainable solutions over time in relation to its context. Humans have also incorporated the uranium element in their powering machines in order to create nuclear power by fusion. Thereafter, such as uranium and hydrogen fuels, there are many new creations, making resources bring benefits to our community by either marketing goods and services to increase the economic value of a market or country, by providing life support services to become more ecological, by applying useful scientific and technological methods in areas to explore culture and moral values in intrinsic ways, and to improve as a humankind. But just like benefits, technocentrics should be aware that such resources can also bring negative impacts to our communities. Our ability to exploit the resources provided by nature and humankind decrease the availability of resources, leading to scarcity and major impacts due to our customs to having those resources in the palm of our hand. Are we thinking about the soil fertility and the structure of the soil when we exploit crops? Or are we only focused on the productivity based on the economic value? Nevertheless, we should be aware of our actions and consequences. We must shape an environment stabilized throughout the long period of time, thinking about longer generations.
Since the early 1920s, the UN Environmental Program has been using a system of integrated environmental and economic accounting to try to value the environment and track resource depletion. If countries would indicate the cost of degrading their natural resources within their GNP, gross national product, the real cost and health of the nation would be clearer to see.
Carrying capacity is defined as the maximum number or load of individuals that an environment can sustainably carry or support. By examining carefully the requirements of a given species and the resources available, it should be possible to estimate the carrying capacity of that environment for a species. Now, this is problematic in the case of human populations for a number of reasons. Humans use a far greater range of resources than any other animal. We also replace resources with others if they run out. We may burn coal instead of wood, use solar energy instead of oil, or eat mangoes instead of apples. Depending on our lifestyles, cultural and economic situation, our resource use varies from individual to individual, country to country. Developments in technology lead to changes in the resources we use, and we import resources from outside our immediate environment. And while importing resources in this way increases the carrying capacity for the local population, it has no influence on the global carrying capacity. Many factors like these make it practically impossible to make reliable estimates of carrying capacities for human populations. Ecocentric thinkers may try to reduce their use of non-renewable resources and minimize their use of renewable ones, while technocentric thinkers may argue that the human carrying capacity can be expanded continuously through technological innovation and development. We will always grow enough food, have enough water. It's just a matter of being more efficient and inventive. Using the remaining oil twice as efficiently means it lasts twice as long as it would have otherwise. And, well, given the estimate of human population size in 2050 of 9 billion, efficiencies will have to increase dramatically. Things that might help: reuse, recycling, remanufacturing, and absolute reductions. Humans can reduce their environmental demands and thereby increase the human carrying capacity by reuse, recycling, remanufacturing, and absolute reductions in energy and material use. In reuse, the object is used more than once. For example, the reuse of soda bottles, after cleaning them, of course. In recycling, the object's material is used once again to manufacture a new product. For example, plastic bags are used to make plastic poles for gardens. Things that might help: Reuse, recycling, remanufacturing, and absolute reductions. Humans can reduce their environmental demands and thereby increase the human carrying capacity by reuse, recycling, remanufacturing, and absolute reductions in energy and material use. In reuse, the object is used more than once. For example, the reuse of soda bottles, after cleaning them, of course. In recycling, the object's material is used once again to manufacture a new product. For example, plastic bags are used to make plastic poles for gardens.
As we know, humans can exceed their carrying capacity in many ways. Human carrying capacity can be seen as a maximum load that can be sustained without affecting productivity and ecosystems. Therefore, carrying capacity not only depends on population size, but also depends on the areas that support that population. An ecological footprint of a population is an area of land that would be able to provide all of the population's resources and assimilate their wastes. Therefore, this could be considered the inverse of a population's carrying capacity. Nowadays, this term is very popular and can be used to calculate not only a population's footprint but also an individual's.
Personal ecological footprint. Personal ecological footprint is the measurement used to know how the human demand affect the amount of natural resources used each year. To have an idea of Earth's ecological footprint, the footprint of different countries was estimated. Canada was of 7.8 hectares, United States and Australia was of 10.3 and 9.0 hectares. The average person in India has 0.8 hectares, China 1.6, UK 5.2, in Germany 5.3, and in Switzerland is 1.5 hectares. Due to these estimations, it is obvious that we're exploiting Earth and that we're using more than what it can offer. The ecological footprint of a country gets formed due to various factors, one of them being the population size, average consumption per person, the number of people and how many people use the land as a resource, cropland, land used to create biofuels, land that is needed to harvest, animals using land for their own consumption, production of wood, obtainment of minerals, land used to retain wasteful products, and land used for the absorption of pure or contaminated water. Creditors have small footprints, people who do not owe, they actually lend, and debtors have larger footprints, people who owe, they are borrowers.
With this in mind, we must remember that resources, or natural capital goods, are goods or services in limited quantities in which serve value to humans. Our dependence on such values change over time, depending on the culture, technology, and economic development progress. And while we can, under our own rights, exploit the resources in the world, we must remember that they can be renewable as well as non-renewable or replenishable. We must take appropriate measure of sustainability to allow future generations to meet their needs without harassing the environment. Through this, the human carrying capacity can be increased while maintaining a balanced, steady ecological footprint. Thank you.